So for the holidays, it's been sitting a while because of the summer. So because we don't really use this in the summer. We have other things to do. So I have to do some maintenance on it. And if you have a layout, you have to do maintenance on it, even if you do use it, because it gets dirty, dusty, and you'll find yourself running the trains and they'll fall off the track and you don't know why. Chances are, if it falls off the track, you have to check the back ones because it could be pulling and they come off the track, which is actually what happened when I started it up, and I shouldn't be starting it up until I clean it. So I clean the track. This is Gargrave's track, but Lino, whatever, it doesn't matter, with some witch hazel. I like to use witch hazel. You can use simple green with water. Make sure you use distilled water or the rust. But I think the best thing I've found is witch hazel because it won't rust the track. All right, which is your enemy when you're doing this. I don't have a dehumidifier in here. I don't need one, but sometimes you do. If you have a basement, you should have a dehumidifier. Otherwise, the train's going to rust. The witch hazel again is the best thing I've found to use on the track itself. All right, so as for the cars, there's two types of cars. One is the post-war, the older ones, and I just cleaned this one. What I do is all the metal, I like to just hit with a Q-tip and WD-40. I put that on the metal just as a safety precaution. I don't like the rust, and it actually removes a little if there is any. I do the axles with the WD-40s. Well, I take the WD-40 and I put it in a little tiny cup that I get from the dollar store, these little tiny cups, and I use a Q-tip and I go over all the metal. Obviously, you don't do the outsides of the wheels because that'll get on there. Then I use some oil. It's really helpful to have that little bottle of oil rather than spilling it all over the place. And I do the post-war, I do in the inside, because if you notice the post-war, they move independently of the axle. So I do one drop on the inside of each wheel. All right. I can do the couplers if I want to. I don't usually. I think the WD-40 handles that. But the other type of car, which is not the post-war, well, I guess everything's post-war, right? The more modern, not the made in USA stuff from years ago, right? The axles, I also do the metal a lot of times with the WD anyway, but the axles move together with the wheels. So I take the lubrication and I go on the outside. One drop on each outside because you'll notice that moves all together. All right. Then you take I do take distilled water and simple green or an astringent, anything like that. And I take a Q-tip and I hit these rollers. And if they're really dirty, I do the wheels. I don't do the wheels too much because they are powder coated and simple green will remove the powder on them. So I don't do too much of that. I find that if you have a clean track, you're not going to have that bad a time, and you keep the track clean. And then the last thing I do is I take a brush and I just brush the trains. And I think that's about all I do with it. The accessories are a whole different thing. They're a whole different thing. I generally just run those. If they're okay, leave it alone. I do hit the metal with the WD-40 on the accessories as well. Places that might want to rust, but I leave the accessories alone unless there's a problem. The sawmill, for example, that I'm anticipating a problem. There's always a problem with the sawmill. And I have to take it apart and mess with the motor on it. Because remember, these things don't have motors like they do nowadays. The old stuff run on vibration. And if you're not getting the proper vibrations, it's not going to move. The same thing with the forklift. They run on vibration. And the old barrel loader. You run on vibration, not a motor. So you have to keep that, if it works, leave it alone. But that's about it.